Hello, I'm Steve. A little about myself. I'm a retired law enforcement officer with 20 years of service. I began my career in the jail, worked the road, and became an investigator. During my career, my training consisted of everything from SWAT to becoming a state certified crime scene technician. I've investigated crimes from thefts to homicides. After retiring and becoming aware of true crime and web sleuths, I started my channel for web sleuths to better understand the perspectives of law enforcement. Not only do we cover true crime, I go out into the field and assist families who have lost loved ones to homicide and their cases are considered cold. Join me as we look and bring attention to these critical cases. Hello, everyone. I'm glad you're able to join us tonight. If you're new to the channel or if you watch this video anytime this week, welcome. As we start this, I want everyone to know that during the show tonight and the presentation, has nothing to do with politics. This is simply, we're not going to be discussing candidates and or any of those issues. This is just from the perspective of my law enforcement career and some specialized training that I had the pleasure or the honor to serve my community as a counter sniper. And through that training, both basic, advanced, and even training with some higher and other agencies throughout, both military and federal agents. And actually, there's probably at least one team member that is unidentified that's in chat that I've worked with, and I will always remember the time that we spent many years ago training at a military base. But like I said, as far as snipers, counter snipers, it is a specialized part of the law enforcement. We see it in our militaries and, of course, the Secret Service. We recently saw how they reacted due to circumstances and what were overlooked and what was the reasoning behind what occurred. The political part of it, we're going to stay away from, but we're going to look at some of the things of how hard it is for even a counter sniper that's trained to identify certain threats. And even if we do see individuals that are suspicious, how do you react to that? Just someone on a roof or someone at a corner acting suspicious doesn't carry the ability, opportunity, and jeopardy as far as the use of force continuum and giving you the green light to end someone's life and take their life. So there has to be certain things present and known to these individuals. Like I said, I've shot with a lot of snipers from across the country and marksmen. Some of them are absolutely have skill sets that are unbelievable. And it has been mentioned in one of the recent, or I had heard in several videos about the high odds of how, 1 in a million shot. No, it's not a 1 in a million shot. And we're going to discuss some of those details as we go into that for you to better understand that there's a section of people that have certain skill sets across this country that when properly trained, we know that weapon system. We know when we put crosshairs on something, what will happen. And when we send that downrange, things occur and it gets results. But we'll be discussing that more. But as we start the show tonight, we must remember Corey Compatore, and they're having a GoFundMe for his daughter and his family for the loss of this fireman who was at the rally who protected his family. So thoughts, prayers, and if any of you have wish to support the family, absolutely do so. All right. Well, we have to talk about the rally from the standpoint of security measures and why in the world were certain things allowed to occur. And was there a breakdown of security? Absolutely. I'm not here to take up for law enforcement. When law enforcement, regardless of their expertise in what occurs and what goes on, what they allow, human life was lost for the breakdown of whatever systems they had in place. They failed on so many different levels, from the initial outer layers to secondaries, roof lines. It's just one little mess up after the other, and we see what it has resulted in. So that is sad. But we're looking at almost just over an hour. 62 minutes of from the first time that he identifies a person of interest on those outer layers, and he was still able to breach each layer and eventually work his way to a vantage point that allowed him certain fields of fire that he should have never had the opportunity to. Now, we'll be getting into some of what the law enforcement training and some of the things that, because there was more than just the Secret Service tactical and teams and sniper teams there. We also had some local agencies from the state all the way probably even to the counties and others. So we have to look at all of them and who is in control, who is working it, and why could such a cluster occur, and what will be the final findings of the hearings? Who knows? But we know that it shouldn't have occurred. It has occurred, and what can we learn from it? But anyway, when we start talking about counter snipers and the training that we receive, it's very basic. I mean, it's nothing. I mean, we see the movies and of course you see that snipers never miss, or counter snipers from the military and otherwise. That's not the case. Sometimes misses do occur, but generally those are due to some variables. When you're in a hot situation, such as we have a two-way firefight going on, and you're trying to acquire, are you sure of which individual is firing? Who else is firing? Is it friendly or bad? There's a lot of considerations that go on. But our training teaches us that we go into an area, and whereas law enforcement SWAT teams' responses is a little bit different than what went on for this security detail. This security detail would have known days, weeks, months in advance of this location. They would have done a lot of legwork prior to ever setting foot there. And once they did set foot and put boots on the ground and analyzed the areas, noted the buildings, identified each building, and they would have been named and recognized for those positions, and the high ground such as water towers. What are the best overwatch areas? And of course, were they utilized? It doesn't appear so. But there's a lot of things that are considered whenever we go into training, as far as visibility, that the position that you choose where you can have maximum view of all the areas, because you most certainly do not want to give a offender the high ground. And also, from those higher vantage points, you have some concealment, and you'll have a little bit better understanding of what's within your range. And the range of each of these platforms that, and when I mention platform, it's going to be the weapons chosen for each mission. Law enforcement, as far as urban, is not something that we go into and looking at those 1,000-yard shots. Have I shot at 1,000 yards? Yes. While we were training, especially with the feds and things, we would go to the military base and shoot targets out to 1,000. And I think the FBI back then, when we were training with them, they required a 90% hit ratio at 1,000 yards. And while we were there, I hit 28 in a row and run out of ammo, and my partner hit 42 in a row, and they told him to stop. So people with good equipment and good optics, it's nothing for, but we're sitting there in a non-threatening environment, enjoying the day, working with other professionals and putting rounds down range. A little bit different when the crossfire starts. But when we pick our positions, and such as this sniper team that was on the building, and there's more than one sniper team there, but of the two Secret Service sniper teams that were noted, the ones that were on a second building that made that shot, they were up high, at least to the same level as the offender. And that position selection gives you the ability to be above and overwatch certain obstacles so that they're not in the way. Now, you're always going to have certain fields of fire, fields of responsibility, as far as the areas that you're supposed to be in control of, and should a threat arise. And of course, these agents would have had, that mission, and they would have went out, and would they have created the old range cards that we used back in the day, but they would have had plenty of time to make note and know every yardage, so that within their protected fields that they would have been overwatch of. All right, let's see what else is going on here. This is the old time range cards. Are they still being used out there? Probably so, especially in training. But there's so many things out there now that whenever you and you want to see some artistry, you let some of the people that whenever you get out there and you start diagramming the locations, and you look at these areas, these buildings, these tree lines, these obstacles, stages, persons. There's so many obstacles out there that you have to understand, from fencing, buildings, and what is your line of sight? What are those ranges? And this range card here allows you to go ahead and draw it out so that you have an understanding of your environment. And we, as law enforcement officers on SWAT teams, we go out, we only have minutes to fill out one. These Secret Service agents would have had, like I said, hours and weeks of time to be able to fill these out and understand all those ranges from different threats. Now, did anyone ever anticipate that they would have a threat coming from that close of an area, from an elevated position, and that every line of defense would fail prior to? No, that wasn't part of anyone's plan and thought processes that anyone would be able to gain that position. Before I go much further, let's get in the chat and see what's going on. Get caught up a little bit, guys. All right. If you have any questions, throw them in chat. I will get to them after the presentations. There's Jill. Good to see you. Molly, Josh. There's Mustang. Oh, Pitbull. Hello, Pitbull Mom. There's Holly. T. Cancella. CJK. Hello. Molly says, can't wait to hear about your sniper training expertise. I was a counter sniper when they first started the SWAT team. Of course, we didn't have snipers or counter snipers, and that came along much later. But when that opportunity arose, I jumped on it, and we were the initial sniper team for us. We had 5 men. Our lead sniper was a Marine recon sniper that was from the military, excellent, world-class marksman. And he had high standards. And he put us through the ringer weekly and monthly. And so we put a lot of rounds downrange. Let's see here, 973, good to see you. CJK, Steve, smart. Al on the prowl, good to see you. Hello, Olivia, too. Trying to get caught up. Brenda, always good to see you. Josh says, in law enforcement, aren't all snipers counter snipers? Yes, as far as the training that we're out there and we do that job, and that's just a title that they selected, and it works because we are out there to make sure that if we do have a bad guy, not everybody that we, of course, shoot are snipers. Counter being that we're out there hunting other snipers. That occasionally occurs in law enforcement, but mostly is other hostage situations. And that was almost all of my time that we spent in law enforcement was training for either hostage rescues or otherwise. Not so much for snipers or counter sniping. Let's see. Make sure our Sensei, Miracle Hearts, good to see you. Boston Christian. Miranda Lee, good to see you. Let's see here. Trying to get back within a reasonable time here. But like I said, if you have any questions about any of this, Miranda Lee says, True Crime Web, it took 26 seconds for law enforcement or Secret Service to shoot the shooter after the first shot. Is that too long under circumstances? Is that a realistic response time? And some of the things I created tonight for us to look at is exactly what we are going to have a better understanding of. Did they, when and what point did they see that firearm that the offender had? And really don't even want to give him any name recognition or otherwise. I know his name. I have, who doesn't? But he's just an individual that for whatever reasons decided to end the life of an American and sadly tried to assassinate a candidate. And we, of course, can't allow that on any level. But if from the time of the presentation to the time that the shot was fired and they have a understanding that he is the bad guy, 26 seconds, less than a minute. And we don't know if that was the only shot. There could have been an additional shot fired prior by a counter sniper before that 26 seconds. But we have to live with the results that it did take 26 seconds. And I don't have a problem with that. Now, if it was an individual that they knew that was armed, and he was up there for minutes and minutes, that's a different story. But like I said, we just can't engage someone that's peeping over a ridge line until we see a weapon. Once that weapon is noted and seen, and it's not easy to observe and see a weapon. If you see the side profile of a weapon, yes, they're easily identified. But that's some of the things I'm going to be showing you tonight that and some of the recreation that I did so that you have a better understanding of what a profile of a AR looks like head on. and you may not recognize it to be a firearm. You may, like I said, there's no guarantee that you as any individual will be able to recognize it instantly. All right. But anyway, this is one thing that I have two precision rifles that I used in my career. Back when I started, we had to buy our own firearms, our own platforms. And for urban, we had distances. And I know you may think that even 25 yards is ridiculous to know, but the hold on a precision firearm when you're having to preserve someone's life and take the life of some offender, that and you may only have an inch or less, and you're shooting in extremely close range. These guns, like I said, you can't miss. If you miss, things happen and people lose their lives for no reason. But as you can see, this here, I had it from everywhere from 25 yards out to 550 yards. This was on a 223. I carried two platforms. I carried a 223 and a 308. And I was the only one on our unit that carried and had qualified with two rifles. The reason being is that on certain missions, the 223, that you could engage someone in the crowd and not have any collateral damage from a pass-through with ammo that we used in that 223. But, and like I said, we have to plan for those unalivings, and that's part of what a counter sniper does. Justifiable homicides, we plan for them. And if the mission calls for it and it escalates to that point, we have to have a platform that will perform. I believe when I was checking and looking and have heard some reports that the platform used by the Secret Service in this that took out the offender was a Winchester 300 mag. Exact which one of the models and what were the accessories, and because the government has many models of different types of calibers, and that have evolved over the years. And I can tell you that regardless of which platform was used, this gun and the shooter, while we use match grade ammo, these guns are customized to the individual. Not every individual can pick up any gun and shoot it to the standards that's required as a sniper. While we would probably be able to make almost any platform from another member of our team shoot well, but when you set out there and you train with that weapon and it becomes a part of you, you know every bit of that weapon. That weapon is designed for you. The holds, the caliber that you select for that mission, the accuracy, everything about this weapon platform is built around the shooter. It's customized to fit them and the mission. There's nothing by chance. It's not that you go pick a gun off the rack. This is a gun that you care for from the time that it's issued to you. You clean it, you take care of it. You're in total control of it at all time. At least with my department, we were. When you used it for whatever time length until that barrel started letting the groups get a little bit larger than what is acceptable, and you can shoot a barrel out a lot. And these guys would know that. But these guns, everything from the barrel to the trigger to the match grade ammo, the optics, everything is set up for that shooter to be able to pick that rifle up. He knows it inside out. And if this shooter that took this shot and the offender, it's not by chance that round entered him and ended his life. Counter sniper, when he realizes the yardage and he knows that yardage, we dial it in, guys, because when you use this dope, and that's his data of prior engagements, when you use this dope and you're either using the mil dot system or you dialing it in, doesn't matter. You know exactly where that bullet's going, where those crosshairs are. There's no guesswork in it, guys. There's none. And it's just part of our training that, I've sat there and been on, a range where targets are popping up at 100 yards, and then 500 yards, and then 700 yards, and then back to 200 yards. And it's part of our training that we have to jump from one range to another so that we can be accurate and in these situations, because you don't know when a threat will pop up, but it's part of it. This is a group that Mark, who shot the left eye, and I shot the one on the on the right side of the screen. Mark shot the group to the left side of the screen. This was using a 308 at 100 yards. These are 3-shot groups. And I asked Mark one time. Mark made them, and like I said, I was lead sniper, and he was my observer. But we would swap off. We have certain rules of engagements and how long you will be on that scope. When will you get off the scope for eye relief? Because there are certain parts of our training that we rotate off. Like I said, Mark shot the one to the left side of the screen. I shot the one to the right. I think there's 3-shot groups. Although I remember Mark one time we were talking, and he mentioned that he thought they were 5-shot groups. Doesn't matter. They're both sub MOA, and this is what we train to do. You'll see this set behind me quite often. But when that round strikes the cranial vault, and this is a image that I made from the Murdoch recreation of when I shot some ballistic gelatin, and this is what happens when you bust that melon. There's an explosion that occurs. Whatever, especially from the 300 Magnum, that you'll see that the foot-pounds, and you can blow this up and see that that these guns, while they're zeroed, and this one here, the chart I pulled up for this Winchester 300 mag, it was sighted in at 100. At 200 yards, this 300 mag with this load dropped 2.3 inches. And so you can see anywhere from 100 to 200, when you're shooting at the target the size of a man's skull, that is far greater than 2 inches. And when you hit with energy foot-pounds at 200 yards, at 3,139 foot-pounds of energy, bad things happen to the recipient of what you sent downrange. And it's absolutely doesn't matter if it's a 223, 308. Now, my team, I had the on a call out one time, we saved a hostage. My partner shot a guy in the head at 73 feet with a 308, and he survived. And he got shot through the skull right beside his right ear, and busted his skull open. He's not right, but the offender is serving time, and I don't know if he's got out of prison yet. But like I said, when he went to court, he had mental issues. 308 will do that to you, even if you survive it. But the counter sniper team and where the offender was is on this here. And we was looking at, when I just popped this up on the Google Earth, 559 feet. I know there's been a lot of differences as far as footage. It doesn't matter. These snipers, knowing that on their range charts, that if they had known, and they would have known, like I said, they had days, hours, weeks of planning. They knew the positions of all these areas. And did they themselves walk that roof looking at vantage points of what their overwatch would have been from those rooftops? More than likely, I would believe so. Did they go up on the water tower? Probably so. But they chose the areas that they chose where these counter snipers were versus where the offender was. And and while one team was shielded by the trees and couldn't see where the offender was shooting from, the second team was. And like I said, did they fire more than one shot? Possible. And realizing that the hold wasn't right and then correct it? Probably so. But this is a image that I gathered from the recently released rooftop beside where the offender met his end. This is the silhouette of the gun laying on the rooftop. Looking at it from the silhouette, I went in there and did some filtering, and when you blow it up, you can see, of course, it's on an AR platform, and it appears to have some type of optics. And what kind of optics were those? I don't know. I really can't tell from this. Will that come out eventually? Yes. Well, whatever type of magazine it had doesn't appear to be extremely high volume magazine. And the reason that we have to understand the possibility of what type of magazine was in it, that the longer and the higher capacity magazine that is in an AR, that if you're on a roof and you're sitting behind that platform, that with an extended magazine, you have to break the ridge line higher, creating a more pronounced profile of, of your body, your line of sight. And so, what was the round capacity of this one? I probably, I would be shocked if it's anything over, it's going to be 20 or less, more than likely 10 round magazine. Just guessing. But this is a profile of an AR rifle downrange looking back, that if there was a shooter behind this, and the reason I created this profile is so that I could create these tests that I conducted today to see how easy it is and how to possibly misidentify a weapon system. And like I said, this is all you're seeing. It's not like you're looking at it from this vantage point. Anyone can see that that's a firearm. But looking at this, can you tell that's a firearm? And can you tell that's a firearm at 559 feet or even longer? And of course, I got my mannequins out and we did some testing with them today. This is at 9 power. I went out into my, between mine and my new neighbors, and I put a mannequin. Everyone knows the mannequin I used. That's my mannequin. I used, everybody recognized him that I used for Koberger. And I put him up and I put a little ridge line in front of him, a very gentle sloping ridge line. This ridge line is about 4 inches high and with an individual laying behind it. And I created that for a purpose. The 9 power scope I was shooting at or doing this with, that 9 power simply means that when you look through a scope and you divide 9 into 550 something feet, and it's like looking at it at 60 feet with a naked eye. Just divide it. So if you're at 10 power, it'd be looking at 55 or 56 feet. 20 power be half of that. And so that's what how you gauge the view and the power system of these optics. Now, this is a view of 125 yards from that I elevated the offender and put him in the back of my truck, and I went down to the ground and simulated at 125 yards with 9 power. That if you look at the image on the left, all you can see is, of course, that profile of that firearm. and it'd be hard to tell that that's that, but that's what it is. And then when you come up to level view in the bed of the truck, looking at it, you can see what that profile looks like again. But still, can you easily identify that as a firearm? What is that in front of him? Is it a spotting scope? Is it a camera? Or is it a rifle? And that's where some of the things that we have to look at that these counter snipers have to determine is there, if they don't have the profile of it and they don't understand and no one's feeding them information of that it is a rifle, and until they see the muzzle flash, the jump of the rifle, the report of the rifle, that that may be what led to this extended timeline that they were almost straight in line with it. Now, I calculated and I did recreated this, and I did these three images are from different elevations. One of them is laying on the ground, one of them standing, and one of them is from the top of a ladder, from behind that 4-foot roof line, so that you could get a perspective of what 9 power looks like. And then I went up to this is what 14 power looks like, a little bit clearer, whereas you can see, but still, when you're looking at this gun and you're looking at this firearm from a 2-dimensional perspective and you're looking downrange at it, you may not be able to easily identify. And that may be one of the reasons that took Secret Service so long, the counter sniper teams, to react, because they were in a position that was absolutely almost straight back towards him. And they had to make sure of what that was. Not making excuses for them, but this is something that we have to consider, because how many of y'all could easily spot that was a firearm? You know, it's easy to see it from this, but when we put that range in there, it's not so. Let's go back up here, get started, see what's going on with it. I say, if you got any questions, throw them in there. I'm sure there's going to be a few. I have a bunch of chat here. All right, let's get in here. Whoop, jumped on me. All right. Let's see. Well, I appreciate y'all being here. Like I said, we're just trying to give y'all a little bit of a understanding that it's not as easy as what you see on TV sometimes. Let's see here. Appreciate everybody being here. If I missed any names, which I'm sure I have, and as I go through chat here, trying to get caught up, I'm way behind, guys. Okay, Josh Sapash. For LE snipers, what conditions would ever cause you to leave your post, even for suspicious individuals? Wouldn't you communicate with other officers to intercept them? You would think so, and that's one of the failures, leaving their post, and for what reason? And of course, it led to this. Whereas, you know, if those people that were in those elevated positions, those windows, that skyline, that easily could have, you know, seen him and took pictures of him, you know, you could have engaged him with a pistol. You know, you take an oath, and you know, no one looks to go get into a firefight but sometimes it's necessary. And are you just going to let someone become an active shooter and without at least getting into it and getting involved? Obviously, they gave up that position. Would they have to answer for that? Absolutely. And their training and everything else, and what will be the end results, and what will be learned from this. The next time, people are not going to be leaving their posts for any reason. It's just unbelievable. It's reported law enforcement was inside the building. Why didn't they hear the guy on the roof? I can hear a squirrel running across the roof of a 2-story house. That's another great thing. And whereas, while you're inside that building, and that was their staging ground, that, we already had where I think at least one officer had identified that there was a man on the roof ever how many minutes prior to with a firearm. Um, you know, what was the failures for that, and why wouldn't they? I could see, whereas if you're in the building, that you might think that it's another officer or someone that supposed to be on that roof, that you would discount it as um, another law enforcement individual, because you have oversight that everyone took for granted that everyone else was doing the job, and that's not the case. It's sad, absolutely sad, of how many mistakes led to this. Josh says, I heard that this venue wasn't the original. Do you know if that's true? No, I don't know which venue, if it was the original, but regardless, uh, even if it was on short notice, that these guys are trained to do a job, and they can do it instantly. You talk to anyone that does this job and has done this job, what we look for, what we understand from the hides, the vantage points, identifications of those clear line of views from 1,000 yards out, because there's a lot of weapon systems out there that shoot a lot further than ever in the history of man, especially with some of the technologies that are being used now. You know, uh, back in the 60s, it was, 1,000 yards was probably impressive. Now we're talking about miles. I think what is it now? The record is over 2 miles, or right at 2 miles. Absolutely unbelievable what some of these weapons can do, and intentionally. Now, of course, anyone can fire a weapon and it can go and hit someone by chance at 2 miles. That's unintended, but intentionally putting a round into an individual at those ranges is something that is absolutely unbelievable now. Uh, Molly says, I wonder if there's a shortage in available qualified snipers, like shortages in many LE agencies and many businesses. I hope not. Military, of course, is a training ground, and every state uh, has training facilities for local law enforcement that train these individuals up, regardless of military background. And but I don't know what is the issue that occurred. I'm sure that there's going to be some new standards. Now, the counter snipers that made the shot can't argue. He put one in there in less than a minute, and so I really can't argue that. Uh, Someone go ahead and take care of Scott Daly if he hadn't been taken care of already. No political issues, not, buddy. This will do nicely. Sorry I'm late. Been a member for 22 months. Thank you. Yeah, thanks. I got the message that he's been snapped. Excellent. Go back with good to see you. DP. Good to see you. Um, yes, I'm Alan Prowl says, I'm pretty sure the SWAT and other response tactics followed the Texas Tower uh, um, incident. Yes, that was one of the leading, and we've learned every time from every active shooter, and training has evolved from Columbine all the way through and even today of how SWAT teams react. Elevate the process. Good to see you. Um, what about the other two gunshot victims from the crowd? Any news on them? Otherwise, do you know where they were sitting, standing? Then, no, I don't. Of course, that cluster of, I'm sure it is all in that similar area. But last I heard, there may still be one hospitalized, but I know at least one of them has been released. Miranda said, tried shooting Olivia's BB gun, couldn't hit a can from 40 or 50 feet. Steve, thanks for your expertise. If a sniper has someone in range, how did the sniper supposedly get 8 shots? And that's, like I said, it's not easy to identify, you know, um, when you go and you see this, and unless you have absolute clear uh, uh, of what that is between him and his face, you may not recognize it for what it is. Not everybody recognizes a weapon system that is sitting staring at them. You just don't. And so, was this two-dimensional profile what was part of the confusion? Chevy Meadow, good to see you. Steve, in your experience, what procedures would you go through if you see an individual with a viewfinder at an event? What do you make of that? The rangefinder, yes, anyone that is out there. But once again, we have to look at these technologies. There's so many technologies out there as far as is it a rangefinder, and if it is a rangefinder, and you've identified an individual with a rangefinder, what communications is he having with others? And is he part of some other team? And rangefinders around any type of event is extremely something that would be one of those red flags, a big red flag. And they were absolutely correct that he should have been a person of interest. How he missed being corralled over this extended time frame is one of the other great mysteries that has to be answered. Because not always is it a lone individual. I'm actually amazed that the assassin was able to hit Trump at all using the AR-15 with a 1x magnification red dot. What's the MOA of that rifle? 2.5 to 3. Can you explain minute of angle? Minute of angle is based on. Let me get here. The group sizes. This is a group size. Minute of angle is 1 inch at 100 yards is minute of angle. There are certain formulas for you to do it. There's a lot of guns and there's a lot of experts out there that can shoot minute of angle and less. Um, the uh, when What would be the group size of a red dot system? I talked to a sniper that was in Korea, and he used a mil dot, or they used a dot system way back then. And he said, even at the 1,000 yards, and he taught me some things about the mil dot systems of how you could sight one in that is probably that you can shoot close to 1 inch groups at 100. I'm not going to share that information, but when the bell went off with me, because some of these red dot systems, that the dot at 100 yards will cover a five, a five, there are, the red dot is 5 mil, which means it covers 5 inches at 100 yards. So you're shooting that, you just cover it up and you're shooting and you're putting bullets within that 5 inch circle. Is that what this shooter did? Very possible. Don't know. But if he's using a red dot that's 3 mil, that covers 3 inches at 100 yards. Just don't know. But the minute of angle and on group sizes, like I said, these at least this 308 group that my partner and I shot, both of these groups, I think Mark that day shot about, it looks about like a 1/2 inch MOA. I shot just over a 1/2 inch, 5/8, I think, that day. Let's see. Josh, even if you can't engage someone without a known weapon on a roof, wouldn't there be strong response to intercept that person? Absolutely, and keep him in view the whole time while someone responds. I would expect. Why that procedure wasn't, once you get someone in your vision uh, and you have them there, you don't leave your post. I don't understand why that occurred. From my watching the latest um, Secret Service agents walking around on the roof discussing that from that window over there is where the other local sniper team was, or counter sniper teams were, and didn't engage. Makes no sense. Yes, one MOA is 1 inch accuracy at 100 yards, minute of angle. True Crown Web. I don't understand, if law enforcement labeled the shooter as suspicious when he was walking around the area, why was he allowed to go out of sight? Can you explain? I have no idea. It makes no sense. Who said he was suspicious, and how did you lose him? And how many officers, were on foot patrol? What were their sectors that they're supposed to control? Um, are we just taking pictures and trying to send pictures of the individuals and sitting there entering whatever format they wanted to do? I have no idea. Um, but the debriefing of this will be studied by a lot of other teams forever. Right now, there's probably every state agency that trains counter snipers are looking at this, trying to understand, and how can we correct this issue? And it needs correcting now. Uh, I wouldn't have a clue about the ins and outs of the pew pews or the basics. Um, Carlene Barth said, Mr. Steve, can you explain to me why the shooter's rifle was so far away from his body? Did first responders maybe kick it out of the way in case he might have still been alive? Absolutely. I think the separation of that firearm was by the initial responding, whoever got there first, and whatever their response. And once you always separate the weapon system from the offender and then handcuff. And I don't see any reason why that wouldn't have occurred with this individual. And we'll find that out as we move forward. Yeah. I'm surprised people were allowed on the venue with bags of any kind. Every sporting event, concert I've been to in the past 10 years is restricted on what you can bring with you. Yes. And I think during the hearing, someone said it had a collapsible stop. But even with a collapsible stop, unless you're wearing certain loose clothing, you still would be extremely hard to conceal. Anna says, apparently a number of people effed up, and that's how the offender got out of sight. Lots of excuses are made, and there is at least, yes, one resignation now. Josh Tapash, could the explosive devices found in the vehicle been an attempt to create a diversion? I heard Ellie said they wouldn't have worked anyway. Um, yeah, that, what was it? Was he going to go out and did he anticipate that possibly uh, um, being able to, he avoided and got into position. Did he think by chance he would be able to get back away from this? Who knows what goes through these people's minds? But I did see, and one of the best questions that I heard during the um, or so far during the hearings is that there was a question of to the director of the FBI that the FBI was asked, did all the blood analysis of the gunshot and the blood spatter, was it consistent with the shot of the Secret Service agent? Meaning that uh, the offender received a shot from a directed location and it would create a certain blood spatter because you have back spatter that from the entry wound and you have um, forward spatter from the exit wound. Although when you bust a pumpkin, it goes pumpkin. It goes full 360, but you still would have certain directionals as far as the blood spatter. But and when he asked that question, I realized that he was trying to absolutely make sure that a counter sniper was the responsible party for ending this and not some co-conspirator that shot from 90 degrees off from one side or the other. I thought that was quite uh, interesting and brilliant. Did the shooter hide the gun earlier? Did he assemble it on the roof? I don't think that has been clarified at this time. I don't know of it. Hello, Nana 73. Sorry. Hate that you had to leave. Uh, were the sniper teams inside the warehouse building, LE or Secret Service? Do you need? I understand that they were a local sniper team, and now they've entered into something that they're going to be questioned in great length about. But my understanding was they were a local agency. Doesn't mean that's true, but that's what I understand. Alan says that they left the building and detained two other people. Wrong, too. Yeah, and I don't know, other than then maybe they thought that other LE was responding to a suspicious person on the roof. I don't know. There's so many failures. Miranda says the Secret Service is supposed to be in charge of the candidate, but after President Trump was hit and had to go back to his vehicle, it seemed like he was more in control of the Secret Service. Um, yes, there is a chain of command. There always will be, and what was going on, what was the communications. But yes, Secret Service ultimately is responsible for the safety of everyone at that location. Barbara Hall, why didn't I get a notification? Hello, Barbara. She and I got Barbara Hall because YouTube is messed up. Notifications tend to come a good 15 minutes after the show starts. Yeah. Alan says, I don't think LE was in the exact building he climbed on. They were in the building next to it, from what I know. Yeah, I've saw mixed reporting. I've heard that there was some meetings going on in that building staging. And then, of course, that we had those windows from the other building, too. I had heard it both ways. Miss Irene, True Crime Web, what are the critical skills to have, like breathing, etc.? There's so many things about how much time you spend on that rifle because you have to breathe. Snipers sit on that rifle, and we're there, and we have eye strain that we have to be absolutely aware of because it can blur out the crosshairs. And there's a routine and there's training that we rotate with our spotter off the rifle so for so much time and but you're not always have the luxury of having the ability to stop and go through the fundamentals of taking a shot. When we were training, um, when your number was called and they yelled it out, you were to put that round down range and call your shot. And you didn't have the luxury of stopping, releasing some breath, pressing the trigger. You watched those crosshairs, and when your number was yelled at and called out, you put something down range. And it's just part of the training. And it's not so much as what you'll see with deer hunting and people going out recreational shooting. Um, because in law enforcement world and in the military world, you don't always get seconds. You only get a moment in time that opportunity can open up and that door will shut and slam shut quick. And so you don't always have the ability to go through any type of routine. So a lot of this stuff that you see about people, well, take a breath, press, count to three. That's not part of it. At least in my day. I don't know what they train them now. DP says, wasn't anyone positioned in those second floor windows that look directly over that roof, probably just a few yards away? Yes, my understanding was they were, and they left their post hunting the individual. And once again, another failure. Um, yeah, looking here, what type of collapsible stock is that? I don't know. It could be that it is folding. There's so many different ways. If it collapsed straight forward around the tube, or does it have a hinge? Couldn't tell you from that picture. Josh Posh, about the angle of the roof, but it's less than a disability ramp angle. I don't know the facts. I can tell you it's less than what my father-in-law, who is right at 90 years of age, walks up for the last 6 months in Florida. Once again, like I said, just look at those pictures and see it from that profile. That's what some of these people that were have to determine. Is that a rifle, or is it a spot and scope, or is it a camera system? Josh DeFoss. There were investigators and Secret Service walking around that roof like it was nothing. And I can tell you about, yes, the investigators. I was one of those for many years. And if anything, if anyone's going to fall off a roof, it's going to be an investigator. Sherry Fay, good to see you. I don't know what it is now, but do snipers have required routine training and certifications they must complete? The year to year is probably not so much, but each department is pretty um, motivated to make sure that they keep up those qualifications. Interesting. 2 points of views from different angles would help. Yes, but both these sniper teams, one of them couldn't see the vantage point at all due to the trees that would have been shielding the offender. But the other one did. Steve, what alternatives do you have if a roof temp is too hot for snipers if you're an advanced team? There's all different types of systems out there. They got shooting mats. Yeah, they did back in my day, and I was amazed. Actually, uh, the individual I was talking about is one of my team members that we trained with the feds way back. The first shooting mat I ever saw was uh, on that range, and I thought, man, that's unreal that they have a shooting mat that they lay on, because we laid in the mud, dirt, or whatever, in ghillie suits or otherwise. I have heard red dot, and we just have to see. It doesn't matter. Regardless of the system at that range, um, we can see how close he got. Uh, FBI director said it may not have been a bullet. It may have been shrapnel. Where could it have come from? It depends if he hit anything. Shrapnel. I've been hit with, in my SWAT training, Mrs. Steve can tell you, I've probably been hit 50 times by different rounds that have become shrapnel. We used to shoot still shots, and so they'll make you bleed, or steel traps. What form of communication is used between agencies in these scenarios? Homeland Security, when they came along, they started um, the process of there was a lot of different frequencies out there, but there was a system put in place of certain channels that would allow communications that once you went into there, you could communicate with. I don't know what was in place with the Secret Service and those empowered that day. True Cromwell, do you think events like this one would be held in an indoor setting for the near future? Like no more open top convertible? Yes. And we see that. And occasionally we see these candidates breach, and I know it has to absolutely uh, put the Secret Service in a bind when they'll get out of their vehicles and work the crowd or whatever they're going to do. But I don't think it's worth the risk, and I wish the candidates would never do that. Uh, the process of replacing and the loss of innocent lives is not worth the risk for anyone. We saw it with Reagan, and now we've seen it with Trump. Yeah, I think the Canadians had the record, and I take it they may have rebroke it again. Um, Josh, in these situations, is there a unified command between Secret Service and local level? Yeah, they'd be a chain of command, absolutely, and ultimately the Secret Service is the ones. Let's see what's going on. Trying to get caught up here. Getting there. Mark says security is only as good as your communications ability. Crooks must have been shocked as he penetrated each layer of security. Absolutely. How in the world did it ever occur? For Steve, typically are plainclothes law enforcement uh, at the federal level use at these types of events, plainclothes. Yes, you'll have all that. Plus, you'll have your local departments. You'll have investigators, whoever the state agencies and whoever process and brings in. That there should have been a lot of layers, and there'll be more layers. You know, you're going to have undercovers in so many positions. I expect. Josh says, I didn't notice until Steve read that. I so meant the top rangefinder. That's fine. Yeah, I hope that this is, Mark, that this is true. That and why wasn't each area and those responsible for those areas held to task? And they will be. They're going to be held to task because lawsuits are coming. Lawsuits are coming. Hello, Gibbo. Good to see you. I don't particularly understand blood spatter, uh, but now, but how is it possible Trump had two streaks of blood on the front of his face? Doesn't that indicate a shot from the back? Um, the that is from an injury. That is gravity from a passive uh, blood flow from an injury that where he was face down on the stage. They were checking him for other injuries, and um, and that's where that would have been during that human blanket of armor that as these agents throw themselves on him. Hats off to them because you've got a you know, you're doing your job, you're putting yourself between you and the intended victim, and they did that. Well, Gibbo's got a new job. Eh, Yeah, Carlene said, I don't know about the latter. Chevy, did you see the video? Law enforcement counting shell casings. The shells were right by the shooter. Um, no, I didn't. Um, I saw the video of them up there, but I didn't see them counting. Let's see. Aquariant, good to see you. And this is Mark. This is a good point. Most of the things that we do as a counter sniper is we do gather intel. Uh, we're in Overwatch. Uh, it doesn't matter if it's a hostage situation or if it's, a, you know, even at some type of raid that we get in position, we enter our hide, we gather information for that as that advanced team or as that team SWAT team approaches the building. We have an understanding of where everyone is. When is the window open? When is there uh, certain avenues of approach? And we go out and we gather that information prior to a lot of things. Um, and you're absolutely correct. There's more to it than marksmanship. It is observation skills and creating those all that data. True crime. Have you noticed some of the negative rhetoric towards female Secret Service agents and law enforcement officers about this event? As a feminist, this angers me. What do you think? I know that male and female failed, um, and there's more than likely going to be more male agents that failed doing their jobs. And it's not you. You swear to take a job, and it's not based on male or female. For Steve, out of all your jobs roles within law enforcement, what was your favorite? It would probably be, you know, um, the CSI stuff. I was an investigator, and I did that more than any other thing. So I think I had the greater impact with the CSI stuff. Um, although, you know, on the SWAT team, I was, part of several successful rescues, which is something that you just don't forget. And even when my partner busted a guy's melon that was holding her hostage, um, so I had a lot of great jobs. Pretty rounded, I guess. Mr. Steves, trim that mustache. Save some single ladies for us single men. Oh, me. Hello, Tony. Thank you. Very kind of you. Aquarian said, "Who is in the photo at True Crime Web?" On this photo here, this is actually my mannequin. And I want y'all to take notice of my mannequin, this one right here, right now. Um, and I also, if you can see, I've had, let me bring this, remove this. That I had, this is what I used for the ceiling this or for the roof line today, and this is the profile, and it's been here setting right there, and like I said, it now that you notice it, some of y'all may have already noticed it prior to that, but and that's the thing is I put it back there and I was wondering if anybody would mention it, and they hadn't yet, but and that's the thing that the same thing that's sitting behind me, that profile, and has been sitting here for over an hour. You just don't recognize it. It's 2D, and you just don't recognize it for what it is. That when it's in that configuration, clearly marked, absolutely easy to look at, you'll identify it. True crime wave. When was there air coverage? When political candidates have been in a city I've lived in, you could hear seas scrambling of jets monitoring the sea. I'm sure there are no-fly zones are established. Pretty sure. Yeah, I was out. Actually, my neighbors got to see me playing with my dolls today, and they stopped because I had put the mannequin that you can see. This position is halfway between my residence and theirs, and so my mannequin was laying out in the road, and it's kind of hard to tell that it's not an individual because I dress him up rather nice. Teresa Bright says, so what was found in the folks that passed or got hit that was their bullets or shrapnel? Probably a little bit of both because you can, 223 does have the ability of passing through multiple victims. Was there any shots aimed at LE snipers, and how often does that happen? The in the engagement where my partner shot and saved that hostage, that individual had pulled away from the hostage and the offender and engaged a sniper team that was working with us from another agency. So on that shooting that I was part of, that in that situation, another sniper team was engaged by an offender. Like I said, I had just come off the gun. He had went on, and he put him down in just a couple of seconds. Mr. Steve, was anyone on the water tower? I don't know. If they were, they failed. And I think someone brought that up. One of the members that was doing the questioning had brought that up. Miss Irene, when did you carry True Crime Web? Did you carry the sniper stuff when active duty, or was it housed somewhere else? No, I always, it was in my vehicle. Carried both the 223 and the 308 at all times. Never knew when you're going to get called out for some type of call out. NH Mountains. I think Cheadle called it a human igloo around President Trump. It worked. Yeah, see, True Crime Web. I saw a body cam video today where they counted shell casings on about an hour ago. Yeah, I hadn't seen that yet. Mustang 65. Instead of mods, we'd call you troll snipers. Yeah, they got rid of one. I would tend to agree, Mark. His close security was on point despite the failures of others. Absolutely. Running into the field of fire is not easy. Thank you, Olivia, too. Barbara Hall, the mannequin's cute. Oh, me. Steve, had you been on duty when the witnesses were trying to get police attention about a guy on the roof, how would you handle that? Whatever the protocols were, there had to be protocols that if a threat arises, who do we alert? What is the chain of command? What is our plan of action when this occurs? And you follow those. It would be different for each mission and for each assignment of an officer that's on post. This is your area. This is your sector. This is what you're supposed to do. And if it goes wrong or you need relief or whatever it is, you have a a plan of action that's in um, that has to be taken care of. And I just don't understand what was the failures. Aquarian, thank you. Josh DePosh gifted 5 True Crime Web memberships. Thank you, Josh. Appreciate it. You wouldn't have been seeing that much of the shooter since the roof was pitched. Um, it depends on the elevation. I've been there, I've done it. If the other building is higher and we have a low pitch roof, um, we will have a better understanding of the roof lines and how much you could have seen. And that's how come I did this. That even from this position here, view from the ground, that was part of it. That if you're from a certain angle, you're not going to be able to see that. But if you're at a level angle on a low pitch roof, you're going to see this. Um, and so, but yes, it depends on what angle. But that's how come sniper teams select high ground, and failure to select high ground can lead into part of the failure. And did they? And that's exactly what we're trying to address here, Chevy. But good point. The steeper the pitch, you are correct. Oh, I can't imagine what it must be to be your neighbor. Such fun. I don't know. I saw them stop in the driveway, and then they had to back their car up and go back into their driveway to get into their house. So they almost drove off their driveway. So um, they hadn't they didn't come down the road to inspect the mannequin. Gibbo, that's funny. Miss Irene has been a member for 17 months. Thank you. And try and get caught up here. Getting there. Been on a while. True Crime Web, do you think it was right for the SS director to resign? They, buck stops somewhere. Thank you for all you do, Mr. Steve. Thank you. You've been a member for 13 months. Thank you. All right. Okay, guys. Well, I appreciate everybody being here tonight. And absolutely, like I say, remember Corey and his family. And if you have opportunity to support the GoFundMe, you absolutely please do so. But y'all guys stay safe, and we'll see y'all soon. And if you liked it, give it a thumbs up, share it, and we appreciate it. And we'll be back in a few days, guys. I'm going to be on the road probably for the next 2 or 3 days, moving some stuff to Florida. But just as soon as I can get back on track, I will be. Y'all stay safe out there, and see you soon, guys.